Hello everyone, I'm going to tell you a bit of a story here, history lesson. So we've all heard the term eye for an eye, tooth for a tooth. You reap what you sow, what goes around comes around. Treat others how you will like to be treated. You plant corn, you're going to get corn. Karma, whatever you want to call it. Everyone, though, agrees bad brings bad, good brings good. Like, you do good things for people, good things is going to happen. Like, those who sow good will eventually have good things coming back around. We've all feel like we have had this experience, correct? Alright, cool. Glad we agree. The year is 1964, and the location is Jonesboro, Louisiana, or Klansboro, as some people called it. So, beginning of civil rights movement, deep south. Now, just on the front end, this is not shots at anyone in Louisiana or your grandparents. Well, maybe it was your grandparents, I don't know. But listen, I don't want none of that in my comment section. Y'all stop fighting now. Do unto others as you will have them do to you. Be nice to each other. Be forgiving. Be kind. Don't you do it. Now, this wasn't just a sundown town, and we all know what those are. This wasn't just that. This was like an all the time down. And it started because people of color were doing great things. They had their own stuff. They had their own section, and we didn't like it. So we do what we do, and then we try to take away their votes, and we persecuted and Emmett Tilled some people, and you know how the story down there goes in those times, and this is very much what these people were dealing with. This town was so rough that people of color were not even permitted to use the library. It was ran by the hoods, the white hoods. They ran the town. Like, there was the people who came in for civil rights and things like that. Like, they didn't always make it. It was that kind of location during this time. All right. Picture painted. All right. So now, at the same time, though, you have all these people working jobs that is half pay, the best job that anyone can get, that is, that has melanin in their skin, is like janitor, if they can get that. And people in the north have, these newspapers and things like that, were sending reporters down to basically make a mockery of African Americans, people of color, making them seem like they were these, sex-craved, alcoholic, gambling, wild animals that were just living out in the wild against all culture. That's the picture that the public was trying to paint of this group of people in this area. Danny Mitchell, they still shouldn't forgive you. You shouldn't have done that. So, not only are we sowing misinformation, and are we sowing violence, and are we burning the symbol of forgiveness and peace and unity, and the symbol that represents that there's no Jew or Gentile or race, or that we're all one. It's the ultimate price of forgiveness, and they're burning it in the middle of town and being like, nah, we ain't ever getting along with you. And they're offing people and doing, all the we're sowing violence, and we messed up. And this is where we messed up. Not only are we sowing violence, not only had we been sowing violence, not only are the people that are born in the 20s like the kids and grandkids of the people who were owned. So there's some animosity kind of happening here, right? You can see why. It's not that hard of a jump to understand why these people of color would be getting angry. Like, wouldn't it make sense to you if it was kind of happening to you, like, on a daily basis? Yeah, listen. If you would be mad. Just don't act like you wouldn't. But, sorry, where we messed up. Not only are we sowing violence, these people born in the 20s, they had to go through a couple of wars. World War II, the Korean War, and so now in all these small towns we have people of color with military training. And so not only are they faster than us, not only can they jump higher than us, not only are they naturally just built better than us because of what we put them through, we then train them. Yep. We trained guys. And then we came back and mistreated the people that we just trained to defend our country against all things that were against the Constitution. So, like, you ready for what what happens? Come on, you know where this is going. You do, right? Veterans like this fella Otis Martin. Now, I don't know about you. One, he's a veteran of 2 wars, Korean and World War II. But I've never met a man named Otis that, one, wasn't from the South, but 2, that I would want to exchange hands with. Every Otis that I have ever met has been a dangerous individual. And so anyway, Otis, who was this dude who was a janitor at the mill, basically had enough, and he calls a secret meeting. And guess where the secret meeting is? It's exactly where all people of color go when things go wrong. All people, really. Every time somebody goes to jail or gets in trouble, they take their blood. You own drugs, you get caught. You go to church, right? And so that's where this meeting goes. And it goes down. They're like, let's go to the church house. Let's go to the sanctuary. Let's make a plan. And Otis and all his veteran buddies go make a plan. Side note, in America, it is kind of crazy that in every small town, if you really give it some thought, think about it, if you're watching this from a small town, especially from a big city, think about how many veterans you have in your town. Each American town is equipped with its own retired veteran militia. Just kind of want to point that out if you're watching this from another location. And we're Americans. So July 10th, 1964, Martin and his other group of locals and veterans, they gather together and they organize what is called the Deacons for Defense and Justice. And what they did for the first bit was, at night, they would patrol the streets. And when a hood or, when something was about to go down, they would stop it. No one knew who they were. No one knew who these people were, where they were coming from. They were hiding in the night. Their kids tell stories. You can watch them on YouTube and things like that, of them sitting in trucks and things like that and on patrol, making sure stuff was being protected. Just say protected. So in Louisiana, much like in Appalachia, in the 40s, the African Americans rally. They grab what they've been trained to grab. They they gather together and they protect what's theirs. If you don't know the story about Appalachia, I don't know what the heck just flew by my head, but Scots and the Africans and a few other races and stuff banded together. They went to war, and that's why we have unions. And so down here, kind of similar situation. A bunch of people fed up of being fed up, of being fed up, of being fed up, of being fed violence and being mistreated and being beat, and their grandparents being beat and their great grandparents being beat, lost all their history, their votes are trying to be taken away, all this civil rights nonsense isn't working, all this peaceful stuff ain't getting us anywhere. They're fed up. And I cannot blame them, and neither should you at all. Now, there was small sections and unorganized kind of watch parties before this that were armed, but this was the first real organized neighborhood watch party. And boy, did they know how to party. But, like, this is the first group that would go, hey, enough's enough. Like, we're going to meet whatever you come at us with. We're going to return the favor. Like, it's time that you reap what you're sowing, because, like, we're sick of the boot on our neck and you stealing our boots. Every time we create boots, you take them. Every time we build a wall, you tear it down. Like, enough is enough. It's time to get a black eye right back. Now these men, 200 miles south, 4 months later, Bogalusa, Louisiana, hours before the loss of Malcolm X, meet and have decided to take this neighborhood watch and spread it. And within a couple of years, there would be over 20 something chapters from Alabama to Arkansas. These neighborhood watch parties were patrolling. They were starting to gain fame. New York Times, Life magazine, they were starting to pop. They were gaining national influence, but the difference between them and everybody else was this was all organized and ran by regular working class people. There was no one getting rich off of it. There was no one making money. This was a strictly to enforce equal rights type of movement. This was a eye for an eye. We are fed up. And I mean, that is what it is. They were a extremely compelling alternative to the passive approach, the non-aggressive approach. For those who felt like, man, that's not getting us anywhere, they were an extremely compelling alternative, and this caused them to rise to national prominence. This is why all those articles were written and things like that, because they were such a stark contrast from let them beat you, we'll get them in court, yada yada yada, to hey, we're going to take care of the dude beating you while he's beating you, so you ain't got to worry about it. We're going to cause so much fear that it will stop. That was the point, was just to get it to stop. Let's fast forward a couple years. Schools are merging, and in this town in Louisiana, the people of color, the kids of color, are getting the crap kicked out of them every single day. And the message that even these dudes are giving the local kids is just kind of take it. Like, let's ride the storm out. Like, let's try to be peaceful. Let's wait. Let's bide our time. Let's bide our time. Let's bide our time. So the deacons, they were being patient. They were being patient. Their kids were getting spit on, beat up, lynched, you name it. It was terrible. It was terrible. And any parent of a kid who would be going through something like that would be enraged. And if you weren't being enraged, and if you can't even in your head go, if that stuff like that was to happen to my kid, I would flip the heck out. If that is not your response, then as a parent, you have something wrong with you, because that should be your response. Like, for real, these were kids that were not being protected. Like, it's illogical to think that anyone would be peaceful in that situation. So, cue the barbershop. Because why not? I mean, all good things come from barbershops. If you haven't been to a barbershop, then you need to go to a barbershop and learn about history, especially if you have a reflection like mine. Military veteran and barber Mr. Burris. All these kids he had been coaching to ride out the storm and take it. Ride out the storm and take it. Finally, he gathered them together. And he said, tomorrow, if you get punched, punch back. Tomorrow, if you get hit back. Tomorrow, if you get spit on, you get punched, you get whatever it is. Whatever they do to you, you do to them. And what happened that day was a bunch of Caucasians got turned blue and black and purple and green and whatever else color bruises can turn. It was a crazy day at school. I mean, it was an all-out riot, right? And so the hood guys get super angry. They grab their little pew-pews and they begin to march into town like proper Paul Farmer, the leader of the hoodsmen down there. He heard that all of his friends had, school had went like Undertaker and Kane had went through as the Brothers of Destruction and just crushed absolutely every person that matched their own pigmentation in the building. So they're mad and they ride in, they have their pew-pews, and Paul was all furious, but what they weren't expecting is that the deacons were there ready and waiting. And so as these hoodsmen ride up, so do the deacons. And so Otis and his buddies and all these veterans who are armed to the gills. I mean, they have their equipment, and they're ordered to move, and they're ordered to stand down and get out of the way, and we're going to fire hose you, all that. You know how it went. And they were like, nah. And so Mr. Paul decides to go pull his little pew-pew. And before his arm was in the air, they had so many aimed at them that they realized if they made a move, none of them would have made it out of town that day. So they left, and they learned their lesson. From then on, Otis is quoted as saying, "We didn't have no problems with them." And it's kind of what happens, right? Mike Tyson even says, everybody has a plan until they get punched in the mouth. And let me tell you something. We earned the punched in the mouth. We earned the black eyes. We earned the bloody noses. We sowed violence. and we barely reaped any in return. We reaped mostly mercy and forgiveness. In Appalachia, we celebrate and take honor in the fact that we participated in the Cold Wars and we brought unions to everyone. We did that through violence. We did that because people were standing on our throats and we were sick and tired of it happening. It took us, and most people today don't know about the Cold Wars. They don't know why we have unions. It's been completely pushed away from history. How many Emmett Tills do we not know about? And you're like, we know about them all. Really? Took us 100 years to find out about Tulsa. We're still finding mass indigenous children graves. What don't we know about? And so when something like Breonna Taylor happens, when something like George Floyd happens, when something like Daniel Prude, who never got justice, happens, instead of your reaction being, why are they setting things on fire? Why are they so angry? It should be, we have sown 300 years of violence into their culture. We have done that. That's us, not them. This is an equal but opposite reaction. So now ask yourself, from what you've been taught, were the Black Panthers really that bad of people? Or were they just people tired of someone standing on your neck? Because that's really what it actually boils down to. We, the people who wore the hoods, we introduced violence to the protest first. We introduced violence first. We taught how it was supposed to be done through the burning of crosses and through the water hosing of innocent people and lynchings and hangings and slavery and stealing of identity and culture and names and not allowing to play drums and not allowing indigenous people to pray until 1979. And so when you wonder why these people still speak out, when you wonder why these people still get frustrated when things happen, when you wonder why things still get riled up, it's just a long, violent history from us to them. And they are just returning what we sowed into their cultures. So what goes around comes around.